Okay, let's get started. So first, let me thank you all for taking the time out of your busy day today to join us for our webinar titled How Pharmaceuticals Are Securely Embracing the Cloud. My name is Tom Crowley. I am the Director of Sales at AK Miles, and I'll be the moderator today. Like many industries, the pharmaceutical and life science industries are facing pressure to be better, faster, and lighter. And the need to crunch large amounts of data and the pressure to bring new drugs to market really have increased the burden on the IT infrastructure, literally to the point of overwhelming it. The cloud offers a solution, but of course it doesn't come without its set of challenges. Today we'll talk about some of those challenges and how pharmaceuticals are learning to securely embrace the cloud. Our speakers today come from both the cloud and pharmaceutical industries, and together they've kind of traversed these tricky waters and have migrated and are now operating in the cloud. Our, excuse me. Our panelist, Mr. Shah Nawaz, is the Chief Technology Architect and Senior Director at Shire Pharmaceuticals. Shah has successfully led Shire's efforts of moving to the cloud and will share his insights and lessons learned with us today. Additionally, we have Mr. Sadish Mowgli, who is our Vice President of Engineering and Operations at 8K Miles, and he heads up our cloud services and migration teams. Sadish has extensive experience in the areas of cloud security, automation, service management, cloud design, and he's really a sought-after resource and a subject matter expert in the cloud domain. Before I hand it over to Shai, I'd just like to mention, if you have any questions as we start going through this presentation, please feel free to send them to me and we'll address them at the end of the webinar. Okay, having said that, I will turn it over to Shah.
Thanks, Tom, for introducing myself. My name is Shah Nawaz. I head up the cloud initiative over in Shire Pharmaceutical. Now we already lost a few minutes. I'll just dive right into the presentation. Just quick housekeeping. Again, there's a disclaimer there. So please, with us, information which I cannot share in depth. Again, if somebody just wants to chat offline or ping me over LinkedIn, I'll be more than happy to discuss those details. But I'm hoping this session turns out more of an informational and some of the consideration one can take on as you're trying to move your cloud initiative forward, and especially in a highly regulated environment. The topic we have for today are, if I can get to it, the trends, the drivers, the inhibitors, considerations, and what are some of the things one could do. And then Sudesh will take a deeper dive on some of the operational aspect and some of the IPs which they have developed. So I think I want to start with the trend because it is important to ground ourselves of where life science, health, and just pharma is, and courtesy of Gigom and Accenture, I think it was well put together. And there's a common theme in terms of where life science is headed or where it's going. And I think it tells the story that life science companies will engage with other members of the value chain, and we're starting to see more of that as we move forward. The more focus on patient outcome, the more collaboration happening outside of traditional walls, new ways or new paradigm shift in how the drug and development work is going on. So I think the biggest takeaway, which is becoming more of a reality, is that there will be more collaboration outside of your traditional walls, and there will be more data generating outside of your walls. There will be more interaction happening outside of your walls. And it is safe to assume that one cannot ignore cloud computing as a whole, but start to need to embrace that thinking and that trajectory. And my viewpoint, it is inevitable and it's going to happen. The question is, how far you are. Some, again, it'll vary from companies to companies. But I think these are great grounding from where things are headed. And we're no different, so we try to keep a pulse on these point of view. But I think ultimately it comes down to the drivers. What are we after? What are some sort of things which are driving it? Again, this would vary, frankly. This would vary from organization to organization. Some are just focused on the cost containment. Some are more into scale. Some are more into agility. Some could be a combination of all the above or a couple of those. But I think this continues to be the common theme across who you speak to, who you talk to, which paper you pick up nowadays. I think it is fair that these happen to be the common theme and the driver which are moving the cloud adoption forward. And I think as we move through it, people say, it is not a question of, should be, but it's when should, it's a matter of time that, this thing will become more of a reality. But, I think being in a regulated industry, more compliant-oriented, I think the whole validation, the compliance, the security, and there's a list which goes through my mind. But I think what sticks, I try to think of some of the key ones which are more of an inhibitor to our adoption or to accelerating adoption. And some of the thinking and consideration one should give out as they move through this journey. One, again, by no means these are in any sequence, and security may be big on your side, or the compliance may be big on your side, however you want to rank them. I just want to highlight, what I feel are the 4 key inhibitors. Of course, one being the security, the culture, the compliance, and operation. And the security, again, it's known, but I think it is certainly, even after 3-4 years, depending on where you are with your adoption, continue to be the biggest concern. But I think at the same time, over time, we have seen a lot of enhancement been made in the last few years that can help mitigate the gaps. There are new tools, technology, but something neither the tool nor the technology can really help is, there's a saying that there's no algorithm for experience. I think it fundamentally comes down to some basic practices, And when we look at security aspect of it, we say build a security architecture in the context of cloud. And what does that really mean? You have to think of inside out, outside in. Your data centers are becoming more borderless. The definition of data center is being more altered. I have yet to find a new definition for data center. I think it's safe to say that the workload is going to move. Some may just stay out there, some may be integrated. So one has to take a more of a holistic viewpoint as they're working through the security architecture, and it's an evolution. But you cannot ignore the aspect of the cloud security in itself, either that's more on your data side or in transit or interaction. It has to take those aspects into account, but it's no longer in your data center. Now it's outside of your data center. So the new thinking and new pattern needs to emerge and be applied at. And then I think, which is very simple but effective, it doesn't hurt to maintain a security heat map. Every posture is going to be different. Every company is going to be different. Having a simple decision tree which helps you determine which workload have the high, medium, low type of risk profile, what's the appetite on your side, and to rank them. And again, this is something I have not seen the tool do, or it's something I think there's a lot of inherent knowledge base, and we've been around for some decades where people can develop these things in their context. And then more importantly, I think as you're moving things out there, there's a notion of managing a deployment model. never, as you're refactoring your system dispositions of what you need to run, how you need to run, the things which are simply going to get lifted and shifted, but things which may influence a potential change in the architecture. So as things are changing, it's always recommended to determine the posture of that deployment and see how that ranks. Perhaps you have a standalone database running, but as you move out, you may be opted to run that more on a platform as a service. Now, is that something you're up for it, where now you don't have any control on the server, the database? All you can do is simply invoke a, if it's a ODBC connection, you can write your schema down. Is that good enough for you? And if so, I mean, maybe you need to mask that data. Maybe you need to encrypt that data. Is that good enough for you? So these are the things. I think it'll vary from case to case, but think of it as almost a life cycle on how you're going to handle security. It's a progression. It's not something I look at as a one-time activity. So that's one of the inhibitor, and how we see it, how I suggest that we go about it. The second one, which if I can get to that slide. Is a culture, and again, I'm sure every organization has their own challenges. I think I like to say culture is still the king, despite the technology or the advantages or the promise, the benefit. I think it'll come down to culture. One has to recognize that it is disruptive, and it'll certainly affect the organization culture. There's some acceptance, there's some not, and some maybe, some willing, some not willing. So you have to take it as a ride, and be persistent. If this is something you believe can really provide business value, business outcome, then stick behind it. And it'll take time. It certainly will take time. It's not something, if somebody were to come up to me and say that, we started yesterday, we're already have workload and application running out there in 2-3 months. Just haven't happened, will not happen. I think it takes time to to build that momentum and that commitment. And I think what has worked for a lot of organizations I've spoken to and for ourselves is building that cohesive point of view or framework by which we go about realizing these capabilities. We don't take our eyes off, the business outcome. You have to bring it back and say, why are we doing this? What's in it for the business? What will the business benefit from? And it'll come down to the 3 aspects which I mentioned, which could be the cost, could be the scale, could be the agility, and there are a lot of use cases one can drive based on that. And I think for enterprise, I hate to put startup in the mix, but it's a complicated business. I mean, we're not a 5-people company. Neither we're a 100-people company. I mean, we range from anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 to 20,000, and you need a structure, you need a framework, you need a governance model. We just don't live off ancillary products. I mean, we need a process. We need some way to put it all together and have it more sustainable so that we can continue to operate today and tomorrow and in coming years. But I think what's also important is, one needs to consider that the legacy way and the new way. I mean, there's certainly that that demarcation of how you want to operate. Most of your existing process may or may not work, and that's something you need to recognize, that perhaps a nonlinear type of model is more suitable, which is more service-oriented and which is more DevOps-centric. And something one needs to consider. And having just a governance model where you can determine where the shared responsibility stays or doesn't stay and who owns what, I think it's as important as any other areas. I think having that framework by which you can start to move forward in a more structured way. I think, at least for the enterprise, that seems to be working. Now, as far as the compliance piece goes, compliance is this is very, very tricky. Every life science, pharma, healthcare, bio, I think we all know the pains. I mean, regulatory consideration for use of cloud computing will definitely will matter depending on the services you want to consume. Certainly, if you have GXPs or if you have any type within GXP, if you have the clinical R&D or any other, it'll matter. I mean, there are very specific guidelines by which you're going to qualify and validate your environment. But at large, I think the requirement stays pretty constant, which is, how does one get into the, how does one assure the record-keeping control? How do we qualify it? How do we validate it? What would the SOPs look like? What kind of training program do we need to put in? Who do we need to train? How do we assure the availability, the integrity, and the retention? And I think that has been the common theme. Even if you look at the GAMP guidelines, I think it certainly aligns to that. I think over time, working through it, I think what became obvious was that GAMP or no GAMP, I think a good software development lifecycle methodology does work very well, which is, as long, and again, this is something the guys from infrastructure were now used to. You got a box, you install the software, you went about it. It was not a concept of coding that configuration. So I think, at least the GAMP and the GXP guidelines or any compliance guidelines does further validate that these disciplines are as relevant as they can be, which is, we always start with the user requirement aspect of it, and we try to design around it. We produce design specification, and follow that we come up with some deployment specification. Then we have to write our test plans, and then how it's going to get tested. And all this has to be somewhat traceable. And I think in some way, adopting more automation, helps do that. We're no longer installing just a server or the disk or the network. I think if all these things can be done in a more codified way, I think there's better chances of traceability and auditability. And frankly, I think whatever, it will vary, in terms of, I think from org to org, I think it'll come down to the organization. One has to feel comfortable with what these providers are providing, and if you're willing to write on those certifications. So, depending on, if you're on the HIPAA side of the world or the GXP side of the world, which side or both sides of the world, does the SAS 70 or the ISO certification, are they satisfactory? I mean, it will vary. Maybe maybe you need all the certification to even first push anything out there. And then I think if you get past that, then the question comes is, you got to decide on your IQs and OQ portion of part of the guidelines, and how will they get supported in the cloud? And this will again vary from org to org. I have yet to come across a reference or document or suggestion. I think there's a lot of guidelines from GAMP, but this will certainly vary. And then I think it is critical that all this has to be tied into some form of your master validation plan. I think the best way to sum this up, I think the more you start thinking of this as a code, and I always recommend folks that, we are already highly virtualized internally, but if you look at it, I mean, we're already running qualified and validated infrastructure, and most of the folks who are in this business do that. And so, why not take those pre-qualified? I tend to say pre-qualify your environment prior to loading, and here. If you're trying to do anything out there, try to pre-qualify, try to get it pre-validated, and try to get your pre-validated images prior to using those. So I've seen folks who are building pre-validated images internally, then lifting and shifting those and running those out there. I can't stress enough that one has to adopt some form of version control. So as I look at this as a code. So if it's a code, if truly it's a code, then it should be version control. And when was the last time somebody said you can version control a data center? So that's big. That's very impactful, and that's something I think it's needed, especially in our industry, where we want to have traceability to anyone from who's coming into the data center to changing the port to anything which is done. And have a release methodology, because it's going to evolve. Things are going to come up. There will be an opportunity to optimize it. So have some methodology baked into that. And I tend to say try to automate as much as you can. Automate your testing. And lastly, I think if we start to treat this as a code, then it is relevant to state that there's no harm on adopting a V model by design, which not only aligns with the GAP guidelines, but it also very well aligns with the software development lifecycle. And I think we tend to make it a little bigger than at times what it needs to be, but it comes down to the basic good practices of how does one go about it. Now, certainly, there are things which can be qualified and which cannot be qualified, but there are things which can be validated and things in that nature. But this is something, I think this is neutral to, it doesn't matter if you're trying to do business with Amazon or Azure. I'm not sure how much of this you can do on Google yet, but something which is applicable to some of the known providers out there. And with that, there's another inhibitor which I think is worthwhile talking, which is the operational aspect, and I'd like to hand it over to Sudesh Mosley. Sudesh?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Shah. Give me a second here. Make sure the slide. Yeah, there we go. Okay, thank you, Shah, and good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for joining. So Shah discussed about three of the inhibitors. I'm going to talk about the fourth inhibitor in terms of cloud adoption in the life sciences verticals. And that is, the fourth one is the operate. And now why is operations an inhibitor? Well, so in the conversations that we've had with life sciences and our healthcare customers, one of the things that keeps coming up, which is essentially a perception, whether it's deserved or not, that IT has become a bottleneck, and in terms of being able to offer newer and more innovative services. And as a consequence, there's a trend in some organizations that's happening, which is essentially a lot of the business units and end users are hopping onto the cloud, and in some cases without the knowledge of IT. This actually presents a very big risk to the organizations, to the business, because of the lack of security or the lack of compliance, and as well as the cost that gets involved here. So what we have tried to do, and so these are conversations that we are continuously having with our customers, especially in this space, and to see how this can be addressed. Right, and so one of the things that the customers all agree is that they should be able to offer innovative services and do so in a very agile manner, but at the same time take into consideration the complex security and compliance needs, at the same time keeping costs low. So. And the other thing that we have learned, and I think majority of our customers do agree that operating in a cloud environment is definitely it's different from operating in your traditional data center environment, But I believe, and we believe that if there are certain best practices that are followed, are designed and followed, it can actually become a huge enabler. This is something that Shah also alluded to, which is essentially if you go with the paradigm of cloud being infrastructure as code, then this paradigm will actually aid you in offering innovative services to your end users. As a consequence of that, what you could do is be able to introduce automation into your service delivery or into your service offerings. So one of the aspects that you get started with is DevOps, and essentially the DevOps, utilize DevOps to be able to offer a catalog of services, and the goal behind offering that catalog of services is that your end users should be able to get access to those services and should be able to fulfill those services mostly in a self-service manner or with minimum or nothing, no manual intervention. And of course, the template-driven approach of the cloud will allow you to be able to deliver these services in a manner that can allow you to put all the necessary security controls, be able to monitor for cost, and ensure that the right set of folks with the right set of roles have access to these resources, and you can also govern whether these resources are being used optimally or if they're if they're being underutilized. So there's a lot of visibility that you start to get if you implement these certain systems that are available, and also maximize the kind of APIs / functions that the cloud offers. That all of a sudden there's a lot of information out there and a lot of visibility out there, which if utilized properly can actually help you in being able to offer a service that is very secure, as well as which meets compliance requirements. The other aspect is also, you could also keep track of inventory very quickly, and the patch levels on your servers. So there's a lot of things that come if these kind of best practices follow, that allows you to get a good control over what is it that you are offering in terms of services. Now, the other aspect of it is what this allows you to do when you implement services in this manner. What this allows you to do is that it allows you to be able to offer these services. You can actually start building newer services, and once again, when you're starting to you treat cloud as infrastructure as a code, and once you start to version them, then as you keep evolving your services and start offering newer and newer services, you're obviously building upon a platform, or building upon what already exists, and you're just taking it forward. So this also enables you to incrementally build or deploy and deliver services that are you could do that in a rapid and more agile way. And it's also very important, and something that in our experience the last 2-3 years with life science and healthcare customers, what we have realized is that it's very important to keep continuously evolving, because the technology is changing so fast. Things are happening almost on a daily basis. It's very important to be able to figure things out, make sure that you are keeping up with the new capabilities, and so on and so forth. So moving to the next slide. So one of the things that we have done as an 8K Miles, given with all this information that we gain from our experience with all these customer engagements, especially in the life sciences and the healthcare industry, is we have developed a framework called the Cloud EasyRx framework. We rolled it out recently, though it's been in the works for a very long time. And the goal is this framework actually targets, it's very specific to the pharmaceutical, life sciences, and healthcare industry. This framework consists of automated scripts, templates, processes, configurations, API integration, runbooks, and documentation that is very specific to these industries. And the goal is that all this framework can actually get deployed on a validated platform, whether it be Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure, Google Compute, and it comes with cloud control, essentially, which will allow you to streamline your operations and be able to control the resources that you are deploying out in the cloud, which are essentially becoming the backbone of the services that you're offering your end users. Now, cloud clearly has a slightly different business model as opposed to which is actually very good. It has you're moving away from the capex model into an opex kind of a model, and so you're paying per use. And the advantages of that is decision making kind of becomes much simpler and much easier. The goal is that you decide, you can go and implement, and if it's not working out, you just shut it down. So your expenditures are lowered at the same time increasing your decision making, in fact speeding up your decision making processes. And as I mentioned, it's very important to ensure that you are putting security, audit, and compliance controls in place as part of your templates. So when somebody launches a service, all of this is coming. All of this gets instantiated along with the service instantiation, and then you're starting to receive all the information as soon as somebody decides to instantiate one of the services that you're offering as part of your catalog, right? And suddenly you're starting to see visibility into the cost, into the usage, into any security events that are happening, so on and so forth. And we also have, as part of this framework, we've implemented we have a wide range of security controls that you can provide as part of these templates, and it all depends on the kind of service you're offering. So for those highly secure and highly critical workloads, you can go all the way from data encryption in REST, in transit, perimeter security, network security, IDS, DOS, IPS, so on and so forth. Security information and event management, antivirus, as well as privileged access management. And all of this comes with the capabilities of being able to log from all these different systems, from your security appliances, from your resources, from all the different cloud services that you're utilizing. And and there's the kind of information that you get. Actually, one of the CIOs that we were talking to remarked that with the kind of controls that we had put in place, he felt that this cloud was more secure than what he had in his data center. So that's it's an interesting take on cloud security, which used to be a very big inhibitor in terms of adapting the cloud. Then I also want to talk a little bit about the identity and access management control, which is part of this framework. 8K Miles has a lot of pedigree in identity and access management. We have a lot of IP in this space, and in fact we have a SaaS offering called EasyIAM, and which basically offers you single sign-on federation as well as advanced authentication and access governance capabilities. But what most of our customers in the healthcare and life sciences spaces use this for is to unify their user IDs on or their IDs on the different applications, especially the legacy applications which do not support Active Directory authentication, but do local authentication. And so the most prevalent use case for this platform is essentially be able to manage users globally rather than having to individually provision and deprovision users from each application. And we have also, as part of this framework, we also have the capability of deploying a HIPAA-compliant environment. So if you have requirements that requires you to either offer a service that has to be HIPAA-compliant, wherein you're protecting the PHI, or if you need an entire infrastructure environment that has to be HIPAA-compliant, all the artifacts that that we have developed, right? All the scripts and all the integration code and the documentation and the processes and procedures. We have the capability of deploying a HIPAA-compliant environment for you, that in the cloud. So all in all, the key benefits that the AKMS Cloud EasyRx framework offers is a documented design, test, and verification specification, and this particular framework actually runs on a validated/qualified platform, which essentially takes away a big burden from you in terms of having to qualify your infrastructure. And as I mentioned, in terms of the stack, the solution stack, or the services that you're offering, if it is built upon on templates that are developed with all kinds of controls in place, then you get a qualified solution stack with all the logging capabilities built in. So you also enable a lot of traceability and auditing capabilities. The other thing is that from a security information and event management perspective, which requires a lot of configuration and complex rules to be codified, we have done this, and so that's a capability that we bring to the table as part of this framework. And the deployments that we have done with multiple customers in terms of, so we have established a lot of best practices as to how to operate this environment. And there are new aspects that come into play when it comes to the cloud in terms of the security that comes into play, as well as the operations, the different security requirements that come into play, as the operations, and of course the costing, making sure that the resources that are so the business units that are requesting those services are being charged back, rather than IT becoming a cost center. Now IT is able to portion that cost back to the business units that are using those services. And last but not least, these kind of mechanisms, when implemented, will actually allow you to be able to offer services in a very rapid manner, especially given the new technologies that are coming through. You should be able to build upon what has already been developed, version them, and then be able to roll out newer services to your end users. So the last slide is last of my slides is I wanted to talk a little bit about the different kinds of services that we have helped deploy for our life sciences and healthcare customers. One of the main use cases is the resource provisioning, which is essentially infrastructure. So we have, our customers have different organizations within our business units within their organization. And for example, in the pharmaceutical industry, we have marketing organizations which want to build websites, external facing websites, especially for individual drugs. And so and this is just one use case, is wherein as part of the service catalog, the customer offers, the IT offers the marketing department resources or web application resources, which are all pre-built with all the security controls in place, monitoring controls in place, the cost controls in place, and they are able to deploy these very rapidly and be able to host a website. So for a particular drug or for any other marketing related activities, along with services such as content delivery and so on and so forth. Same thing with analytical platforms, as well as drug trial analysis. Both these use cases involve large sets of clinical data and complex simulation modeling. So it's very important to be able to very quickly and very rapidly, bring up a lot of computer resources for this kind of simulation modeling. and be able to, once the modeling is done, be able to bring those resources down so that you're not accruing cost. And all of this capabilities can be done, especially if you follow the template-based approach. The goal here is the resources that are coming up are not, have all the right kind of controls that can allow you to meet your validation and qualification requirements. We've also deployed efficient and data sharing platform in the cloud, which is qualified. The goal is for data sharing within the organization as well as external to the organization, and that's where our identity and access management expertise comes in. The idea is if someone wants to if an organization wants to provide access to their data, some parts of their research data to another organization or another pharmaceutical company or the FDA, for example, then they have the capability to do so with our identity and access management solution. You have the capability of being able to log in. The external organization has the capability of logging in with their own credentials. The HPC workloads, which have a very uneven demand profile, are perfect fit for the cloud, for the elastic nature of the cloud. But once again, these services, I mean, you can't just directly, use those services that are available from the cloud provider. A lot of customization has to be done to make sure that when the scaling out or the scaling in happens, the newer resources also have the same kind of security controls in place as the existing resources. So these are scripts and configurations that are leveraged in an automatic fashion. We've also built development. And typically, a foray into the cloud starts with non-critical workloads, typically a development or a QA environment that is set up. So we have deployed those for our customers along with continuous integration and agile development practices in place. And we've also implemented solutions using portable frameworks such as Docker, which will allow you to move from development into staging into production without having to worry about configurations. Well, we've also implemented DR solutions as well as data replication, data retention, and archiving solutions in the cloud for our customers using this framework. So before I hand it back to Tom, I thank you for joining, and I also apologize for the brief delay that we had earlier. But if you are, these are some of the best practices that we have implemented for our cloud, and if you are interested in knowing more, you can please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. With that, Tom.
Thank you, Satish, and thank you, Shah, also. So if you have any questions, now would be a great time to shoot them over to me. I did get one or two here. So first one is, has your cloud offering your cloud offering been certified by the FDA? Who would like to answer that?
Shah, do you want to take that?
Looks like Shah's on mute again. There he is. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I think the best way to put this is, I think the FDA doesn't necessarily certify your cloud application. What the FDA is essentially looking for is implementation of your services of your hardware and or your software by regulated companies like ours or anyone in that space to determine if they are following appropriate guidelines. So so that's yeah. So the short answer is no. It is up to the organization to put appropriate control in place. So either that be from a qualification or validation point of view.
Okay, and actually a follow-up to that FDA question is how many FDA audits have you had?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I cannot provide you that publicly. Again, these are more sensitive questions, which I'm not authorized
Okay. 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 What was the biggest challenge you faced starting out?
I think the biggest one has been the cultural shock. I think we got through the security aspect after some time, and even we continue to evolve on the compliance side of the house. I think it's just trying to bring the organization to move ahead. I think, as they say, the change is always difficult. So, we look at cloud as yet another way of operating it, and it is disruptive. So it's a cultural aspect of it where, one side wants to do it, or one department may want to do it, but the other may not. So it's trying to bring everyone on the same page, and getting everyone on boarded is the most difficult part of this thing.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well then. Okay. Well, thank you all for attending. One quick note, we will be sending out a kind of a follow-up email questionnaire. We'd greatly appreciate your feedback. Again, we apologize for the little glitch at the beginning, but I hope you found the webinar to be informative and that there was some value for you. And of course, my contact information is here. Should you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to provide, any information or any help that you'll find useful. So, again, thank you, and have a great rest of your day.